All right. I will call the regular session of the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Leyland?
Here.
Little?
Here.
Schwartz?
Here.
White? Here. Jelka?
Here. We will now have a moment of silence to reflect on our actions. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we do have an amended agenda. We're going to remove item 7A. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as proposed or amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. We have an agenda. Item number 2, public comments. Do we have anybody in the boardroom who would like to provide public comment? Do we have anybody online or on Zoom that would like to provide public comment? Item number 3, claims and payments. I'll make a motion that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures and that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue checks against the various settlements of such claims as allowed.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Perry.
This week's This week's expenditures total $373,877.69, of which secondary roads $67,188. We have a work comp premium for $34,996. We had 2 payments for our Clifton Larson Allen audit firm for $35,383. Maintenance Department $30,686, and finally Sheriff's Department $149,528. Everything looked normal.
What was the sheriff's one?
Looks like medical services for NAFCare was the heavy hitter on that one in the amount of $112,887.91.
Thank you.
Mr. Veeder.
Yes.
Roll call vote, please.
I'm alert.
Leyland?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Jelka?
Yes. Item number 4, project updates from department heads or elected officials. Kathy, good morning.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, County Engineer. Our secondary roads guys are still out cleaning ditches. PCI is in a race against time, or against the weather, really. They're trying to get Grundy Road finished up about Thanksgiving. And we'll see how it goes with the weather coming in tomorrow, the rain coming in tomorrow. I also wanted to provide just a little bit of information on the new infrastructure bill that it would soon be signed by President Biden at the time. We're being told by the Iowa DOT that they have been keeping track of the bill. Much of the language was put together earlier this summer, so they've been updating us on that. I think by next week we'll have more information on what that will mean in specifics. What the DOT has definitely made clear to us is that they will not have enough state money to swap all of the federal money that they will be receiving. So we will probably most likely end up having some more federal aid projects, which is fine. We know how to deal with that with federal aid money. So that will be something we'll be keeping an eye on, and I'll keep you posted on that. And lastly, I did want to introduce the newest member of our team in the engineer's office, Angie White. She is our account specialist, and she started about 2 weeks ago, so we're getting her trained on many of the activities we're doing and trying to get her ready for some of the phone calls we're about to receive when the snow starts to fall. So can I answer any questions? Thank you.
Welcome, Angie.
Thank you. Good morning.
Any other department heads in the boardroom that would like to provide an update? How about on Zoom? Any department heads or elected officials on Zoom that would like to provide an update? I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 2nd, 2021 and November 5th, 2021. That's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. The consent agenda. I'll make a motion. Second. Any comments or questions? Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 7B is a motion that the personnel requisition for the temporary account specialist part-time in the county auditor's office, starting November 18th, 2021 and ending December 17th, 2021, at $17.97 per hour with a total amount not to exceed $450 be approved as recommended by Grant Veeder, county auditor.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Resolution. Item 7C is a resolution that the bridge embargo establishing vehicle and load limits for structures shown in the table below, and I'm not going to read off everything that's in the table, located at various locations throughout Blackhawk County be approved, and that signs be erected advising of the permissible maximum weights as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, county engineer. The Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors is empowered under authority of state statute subsection 321.326, subsection 8, and 321.255 and 321.471 to 321.473 of the Code of Iowa to prohibit the operation of vehicles or impose limitations as to the weight thereof on designated highways or highway structures under their jurisdiction. The crossings are Pointer Creek, tributary to Blackhawk Creek, tributary to Blackhawk Creek, and Spring Creek. Did Mr. Little, did you make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Kathy?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what's taking place with this resolution. About a dozen years ago, we were tasked by Federal Highways with investigating all of our bridges for certain types of vehicles. And these are the vehicles here shown in the slide that are typical of what we're evaluating these structures for. These are vehicles that are used in the construction industry, concrete trucks, dump trucks, garbage hauling trucks. They're vehicles that are not very common, but yet they're still out on the roadways. We never designed our bridges for vehicles like this, particularly on the gravel road system. So 20 years ago, when our bridges were designed and built, or whatever, 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, they weren't designed for these vehicles. Federal Highways has told us we need to start designing our bridges to include these vehicles traveling over them. That also means we have to go back and analyze the existing bridges for these types of vehicles, how these types of vehicles would impact these bridges. We hired a consultant to do this several years. We've been doing this for several years now. I think this is one of our last batches of bridges to be analyzed. Our consultant said that these 4 bridges need to be posted to accommodate these special haul vehicles. That's what these are called. Hence, that's why I'm bringing this resolution to you, because they have to be posted. We also have 4 bridges that have to be restricted to 1 lane. Those do not need your permission. They don't need an embargo. They just need to be signed for 1 lane. So again, I just wanted to reiterate, it's not the condition of these bridges that's causing them to be posted or restricted. It's really the way the bridges were constructed, the members of the structures, the beams of the structures themselves that are causing this limitation. And when we are designing new bridges, we are accommodating these vehicles. Can I answer any questions?
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 7D is a resolution that the proposal from Origin Design, Dubuque, Iowa, for $185,500 for the Cedar Valley Nature Trail, Phase 1, preliminary engineering for Blackhawk County, subject to resolution of concerns raised by the Assistant County Attorney, be approved and for the chair to sign as recommended by Mike Hendrickson, Director of Conservation.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Money for this is coming from?
Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Hendrickson, Director of County Conservation. The money, Tom, would be coming from the ARP funds.
Okay, I think that's important to state that when we're approving it.
Okay, and the changes that Mike was concerned with have been worked out between Origin and Mike. So the contract is agreeable with Mike.
Okay. I was wondering that because I thought this resolution, passing it for others to read it and understand what it was we were changing, I thought it's difficult.
Yeah, the issues that came up dealt with insurance coverage, and they'd kind of sneaked in a limit of liability clause on there. We removed that.
Thank you.
And Mr. Perry, we can use ARP monies for this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Who made the motion to approve?
I did.
Can we slide in their ARP funding language?
Sure can.
All right. Who made the second?
Me.
All right. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes?
Schwartz,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 7E is a resolution that the suspension requested by Beverly Beaumont on taxes owed for 2021-2022 installments in the amount of $506 for parcel number 8913-13-151-012 be approved pursuant to 427.8 of the Code of Iowa, and the county treasurer be authorized and directed to adjust her records accordingly.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes?
Schwartz,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 7F is a resolution that the suspension requested by Reinhardt Kimball on taxes owed for 2021-2022 installments in the amount of $940 for parcel number 8912-35-451-010 be approved pursuant to subsection 427.8 of the Code of Iowa, and the county treasurer be authorized and directed to adjust her records accordingly. Second. Any comments or questions? Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Little,
Yes?
Schwartz,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Jelka.
Yes. Item 7G is a motion to approve the 2022 Urban County Coalition UCC legislative priorities.
So moved. I was going to say, hopefully, everybody received the copy. It was just what they had reviewed with us when they were here, but if there were any questions, they're open to answering those. This is just a step they're taking before they mail it out to the legislators, too. They wanted to be sure that all the counties approved it.
I'll second it. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. All right. Item 7H is a discussion in regard to possible revision of the Blackhawk County Engine Brake Ordinance. I was contacted by the State Patrol, and then I had a dialogue with Sheriff Thompson and some members of his staff, and we all agreed that this would be a good change for the ordinance. Right now, it sets a decibel limit, and it cleans up the language a little better. There are ordinances in other communities. There was an ordinance from another community that was provided to us to utilize. So I sent it to Mike and I asked him to take a look at it, and he gave us an amended version. I personally like the amended version. We had a similar ordinance in one community where I had worked prior to this, and it was much more easy to enforce than establishing a decibel limit. So I, for one, support this amendment.
How many times a year do they actually pull somebody over for this?
Well, it's, Mark, it'll certainly help with this ordinance.
Good morning, Mark Herbst with the Sheriff's Office. The ordinance that we've currently got in effect has been in effect, I think, the entire time I've been here. And it's been essentially unenforceable. It creates the decibel requirement, and it requires that you be 50 feet from where the vehicle is at. Now, a paved county road, you have to use 100 feet fence post to fence post. So if a semi is on a paved road, that means the deputy's got to be standing on the other side of the fence post. It's unenforceable. And at that distance, when we have done it with a sound meter, we're lucky to have 40 decibels or more. Now, everybody knows Jake braking when they hear it, and it's loud, and it can be annoying to the neighbors and those that live out in the county. We think that the language that's been, that they formulated in this makes it enforceable, that we can take enforcement actions when it's necessary. Whereas in the past 30 years, we haven't been able to. It's basically a warning. Now, Craig, you asked how often does this come up. Deputies don't go out looking for it. But we do get complaints, and there's certain areas of the county that we routinely get complaints. And when the neighbors complain about it, we have due regard and responsibility to go out and to take action, but essentially what it's resulted in is warnings. And a lot of man hours are consumed for something that's unenforceable. So most drivers with a Class A license know that Jake braking is against the law in most counties in the state. They do it to reduce the wear and tear on their brakes, but when they're doing it in the residential areas, they also know that there's complaints that are generated from it. And so the truck drivers know. There's certain areas, especially out in the northeast industrial site, we get a lot of complaints coming from Donald and Elkron. We've had many complaints at Independence and Elkron. Dunkard and Raymond Road are some of those that have had the most complaints. And we think that the committee that worked on this did a nice job in creating the language that we can work with and is fair and not something that the truck drivers can't live with. And so we appreciate those that put the time, energy, and effort into it, and we definitely think that we can work with it.
Mark, I got a question.
Yes.
If I call you right now and say I got a complaint of Jake braking, how are you going to enforce it?
So, some of the neighbors, Tom, have been able to get the name of the companies, and this is what we've done in the past, is on the side of the truck, sometimes they're local companies. We give them a call and say, hey, if that continues, we're going to have to write a ticket. Now, I think that we will continue with that. If they're going to work with us, we'll work with them. And we'll write a ticket if it's necessary and somebody isn't going to take heed to the warning. In other cases where I'll use Donald and Elk Run, there's a lot of semi-traffic coming there. There are warning signs, and I'm certain that if this passes, that Kathy will make sure that the areas that we are most prone to violations are is well posted, and then if we need to write a ticket, we write a ticket.
So in order to write a ticket, you're physically going to have to be there, right?
That is correct.
Are you going to, if we change this ordinance, because my opinion, the last one's enforceable and this one is too, for the mere fact the sheriff's office is not going to sit and wait for a truck to come to Jake break. And in the past, when people complain, which we've had a lot on North Elk Run Road,
Yep.
Middle of the night because they're coming in, you can complain, but by the time the sheriff gets out there, that truck is unloading at another place. So are you saying that you're going to dedicate deputies to be sitting in problem areas? Because that's about the only way you're ever going to be able to enforce it.
When we get complaints, Tom, that's what we've done in the past. What is required in the past is that we use that sound meter, that they then remove themselves 50 feet from it. The decibel level is not in excess of the 80. They can't write a ticket. If they stop them, it's merely a warning. Yes, we do send people out when we get complaints. We will make them sit at the intersections. Donald and Elk Run is one of the most notable.
Yep.
Donald and Independence Avenue, or I'm sorry, Elk Run and Independence Avenue, where they come down the hill northbound, is another area that's been largely complained at. Our deputies do, those are intersections that normally they do sit at when they're doing a report. They hear the Jake brake, they can stop, and then they can make a decision whether they're going to write it. Some of that depends on a number of factors, sometimes including the semi-driver's attitude plays into that. But the way it's written now is if they don't have the sound meter out, there's no ticket getting written.
How many sound meters do we have?
We have one.
Does it always work?
It doesn't get taken out very much because they know that if they stand 50 feet away, it's not going to be 80 decibels.
Uh-huh.
So,
But it takes batteries.
yeah, it takes batteries. Yeah.
And there
And
are,
it sits on a shelf, and yeah, does it get dusty? It does. Because there's an inherent requirement to use that thing, and it's not going to exceed it.
and did,
So it's on paper, but it's unenforceable.
Yeah.
And we think that what they came up with, if we want to take a serious look at improving the quality of life for those that live in the county that have to listen to this, is this opens an avenue that a ticket can be written if and when it's necessary.
so not
Mark,
necessarily that there'll be
the
more.
complaints I've got, Mark, over the years, and it was over on North Out Front Road, was in the middle of the night, because obviously the trucks come in all times of the night, and they're coming in on North Out Front Road. How many deputies do you actually have out on third shift? I mean, are you able to dedicate one person to go over there and worry about a Jake braking incident? Because you only have so many people out on the Black Hawk County at night?
Yes, sir. Generally, we have out between 3 and 4 deputies on third shift.
Yeah.
Now, I'll speak third shift specifically because I worked a lot in the years past. I worked a lot of years on third shift. Donald and Elk Run and Independence is a central location in the county. When I was on third shift, you see my car parked there routinely on routine patrol because it was a central place. So sometimes, Tom, when we get complaints, will they specifically go out there to deal with those complaints? Correct. Other times where they're just, the officers now have their computers in their car, they do a lot of work, a lot of report work, where they're just sitting mobile at a central location in the county and allowing traffic to conduct its business. When they're doing that, they're able to enforce this if and when it's necessary.
Linda?
I was just thinking, so what you're saying is really makes it more enforceable than without, just because of the decibel being.
Yes, and I think that I'll speak for a number of residents that live out in the rural area. They become frustrated when they complain and they complain. Now, I mentioned before where we'll contact companies. We've done that in the past. Generally, that will alleviate some, if they're able to get the name of the company and the phone number. But the guy that's coming through, taking the shortcut around Waterloo, either on Elk Run Road or Raymond Road, coming from Minnesota down to Missouri and taking that short bypass, that's not effective for them. They're not going to get the name of the company, and it's a one-time pass, sure.
So you miss those anyway, but, so do we have a list, or are there some that have been turned as being multiple abusers? Companies?
Usually
or
when
drivers?
we give them a call, Linda, the company takes care of it. But those are local companies, and sometimes, I think a complaint that came through Dan last year. It happened to be agricultural use, okay? But the neighbor knew who it was. We got a hold of the farmer that owns those semis, and he took care of it so we don't have to. So I think what we're saying on this does become enforceable. Is this going to be our first go-to? No, it's not. Is it going to be our highest priority? No, but it allows that leeway for the deputy to use discretion and enforce it when it's necessary.
Well, I guess some of the other questions I had too were in regard to, we talked about this making an exception, I think this is in our language, to the ordinance in case there was a sudden emergency to prevent an accident or an injury or death, something like that stated. What's to prevent someone, I guess, from using that as, hey, there was something in the road or?
Yeah, and to Tom's point, it's basically going to be the deputy has to be there and witness it.
Yeah.
In order for it to do. So hopefully, and I think that with our staff, they'll use insight into that. And did they see anything that, a car that ran the stop sign right in front of that semi that required them to use the engine brake ordinance? That's allowing a common sense approach into this, and I think our deputies are going to do that.
Sure. I guess my other question was about the violation fee. There was supposed to be a fee charged, I think, Mike, is that correct? Or whoever, I was going to say made the amended.
I think the fee was
Was it
$100
I
plus
think it was
court costs.
$100.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was straight out of the old ordinance. If you look at the draft ordinance I submitted, there's a view that you can open it in where it shows exactly what was changed from the old one in a markup view, and that part was not changed.
So it was still at the $100, because I would think if we really wanted to enforce it and we want to get their attention, you'd make it for more than $100. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
That
So
what
with,
you do right there?
and the $100 fee would be, then you add on court costs and stuff, it's actually closer
End
to
up closer to 2.
200,
Yeah.
be like 195.
Yeah, what I've found is when we make fines too high, and I was one of those officers, I wouldn't write the ticket
Correct.
because I'd see that baby seat in there. So now in the semi, there's probably not going to be a baby seat, but
Right.
I'd pull the car over, I'd see the baby seat, and then I'd look at the total amount that I'm supposed to write this ticket for, and I'd say, well, heck with this, I'm not going to lay that on this person.
And you wouldn't think about the neighbors that have just complained to you because the guy abused it?
No.
I think, and I like this amount. $100
$100?
is.
And I think that's, there's absolutely truth in that, Dan. If we make it too high, the officers may be resistant to it, or more likely to use discretion, but it may not be the one that the neighbor calls in it. It may be the one where he's sitting at Elk Run Independence. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and he's doing a report, and somebody comes by and uses Jake brake. Write a $400 ticket or give him a warning.
I didn't say
Nobody
400,
complained.
but I just
Okay.
wondered about 100, and I guess I'm wondering too if it could be a progressive. Something like the first one maybe would be your $100, but if you're a person that's going to continue doing
Yeah.
it, or your company that's going to continue doing it.
Yeah, I'll leave that totally up to the board.
Just
to
a question,
make-
just
But
a-
I think that the $100 fine plus the court costs would probably
Would
be
get their
sufficient to
I think
rectify
that we
behavior.
got bigger fish to fry in this county than worrying about this, especially with the number of speeders, the number of people that are running stop signs. That's what we ought to be after. You go out any day, I can't go from here to Cedar Falls without having 25, 30 cars pass me in a short period of time, and I'm going 5 over, and they're flying by me like I'm standing still. And then yesterday, I pulled out from an appointment, and a guy blew 2 stop signs right in a row. I'm sitting there, why do we even got stop signs? And we're worried about a Jake brake. I can hear it all night where I live. It's part of life.
Okay.
State troopers can enforce this ordinance as well, correct?
If it's a county ordinance, I suppose, yeah.
They can.
And to your point, Craig, yeah, there are a lot of serious traffic violations. We do what we can do with what we see. But at the same time, those that live in the county, they know our phone number.
Yeah.
And we
They're
answer
the
the phone.
same ones that call us all the time on them. Most,
You want them calling you?
they do call.
No.
I've had, Mark, I've had a lot of
Yeah.
complaints over the years of
Yeah.
Jake braking. And a lot of them were at 1 o'clock in the morning. There's no way in heck you could ask them, okay, what was the name of the truck?
Correct.
They couldn't tell you what color the truck was because it's long gone.
Yeah.
Once they got shaken out of bed. So again, I somewhat agree with what we're trying to do here, but I also think it's enforceable. The only thing you can do is put signage up and hope people pay to it. We did the same thing here in Evansdale. We put one out on Highway 20, Jake braking within the city limits. And as a sheriff department, under the current ordinance, have they written any tickets, warnings, or anything in the last year or 2 years?
To my knowledge, they've written 0 tickets.
Yeah,
Have they
I
issued
know.
warnings? They have.
Morning.
And
It's
usually
a tough one to enforce.
it is tough, and this isn't, I don't think anybody that was involved in this suggests that this was the fix-all. Just like Craig commented to the stop signs, there's going to be people that continue, regardless of that stop sign is posted or not, they're going to run the stop sign. If they do it in front of an officer, they get a ticket. On this makes it more enforceable that if they do it in front of us, we can write a ticket. And with your insight on the enforceability of the current one, in the past, when tickets were written, we didn't have a lot of luck in court with it, Tom.
Yeah.
Judges.
Because there's always somebody that oversees that, which is a magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
And so the guys get frustrated and why waste your time on it? This is only allowing an avenue to create that enforceability with language that's defendable, and we think that it's defendable.
I agree.
I was gonna say, the gentleman that approached you, or was there a reason that he just said, is it easy, or?
It'd be easier to enforce.
Would it be too difficult to do?
And that was a state officer, correct?
Yep, it was a state officer.
Okay.
And whereas I think he's patrolling in a number of different counties and seeing different counties that they are, have luck with enforcement, and Blackhawk doesn't happen to be one of them. And he's only offering that as a suggestion.
Are those statistics available then to how many counties have changed or have removed it, or how effective it is? Just curious. Not,
I guess that I'm not familiar
I don't
with.
know.
And like Tom was saying, that Evansdale's got an ordinance, I don't know what that is, and I don't know if that creates a decibel rating either. Do you know, Tom?
Basically what we did, and I was on the council at the time, we just put the signage up. Number one, some people will pay attention to signage.
Correct.
And other people won't. And I know Craig can hear it where he lives. I can even hear it sometimes where I live. It happens. You got people they can care less if it's signage or anything. And to be honest with you, I never checked, but I doubt if they stopped anybody out here for Jake breaking either.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to have signage and try to enforce it. I just don't know in this case it's worth the cost of redoing an ordinance and publishing it and everything to get the same results that we had before. So
that was gonna be my next question, is Mike, you've researched this so much, what is the process for us to go about changing?
So ordinarily, the process for passing, we got to follow the process for passing an ordinance. There's no special carve-out procedure for amendments, and that requires 3 meetings unless the last 2 are waived. It requires publication. I inquired of the auditor's office about whether we typically, because code does not require a hearing per se, but typically the county has held hearings for this kind of thing. I don't see it as being much different one way or the other, so I would think we would put a hearing notice within our publication. That would require that at an upcoming meeting, we would have to have a supervisor make a proposal to set a hearing on an amended ordinance for Jake breaking. At that point, the amended ordinance would have to be made available on print by the auditor's office and would have to be published in at least, I've got to double check, it's at least 1 newspaper. We may have to go with another one on this. And so that would then come after that. Within the time span of 4 to 20 days following publication, we would have to have the first hearing. At that point, it could be decided whether or not to waive the following 2 readings of the ordinance or to pass it at that time. And that's really the meat and potatoes of the process.
Okay, Chris, do you have any input?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank the committee for their work on this. It sounds like it takes something that's hard to enforce right now and makes it a little bit easier. Still may be tough to enforce, but a little bit easier. And if this brings a little more peace to the residents out in those neighborhoods, I support moving forward.
Kathy, have you got an opinion on this or anything you'd like to add? I know you've had a lot of work on it in the past, or comments and contacts.
Well, our main concern would be signing. There are some signs up around the county. I would want to work with the sheriff's office if you feel like more signing would help you enforce it better, then we'd like to know where those signs would go and that type of thing.
And we've put a little bit of that together as far as the main avenues coming into the county, mainly the paved roads, and that's specifically where we've generated a lot of complaints in the past.
All right,
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Mike, let's move to the next step on it.
All right, I will take a look at 2 remaining issues as well as drafting a resolution to set this for hearing. The 2 remaining issues I'm going to look at are, number 1, making sure that we are ascertained as to the number of newspapers in which we have to publish it. And number 2, I'm going to look at the possibility of step-up fines, which Ms. Leyland mentioned earlier. Those are subject to limitations for county ordinances that are not the same as the schedule of fines that the state laws can set for traffic violations. So I just have to take a look at that and see if it's one of those things where it's treated as a county infraction or it's treated as a generalized traffic offense, and what the guidelines are for those fines.
Could we also set those fines by resolution?
You'd set it as, I would think the fine would be set as part of the ordinance. That was the way I had envisioned it. So it would be resolution in the sense that you'd pass the ordinance by resolution.
Okay. Because I know like in Waterloo, because fines change, and that specific item itself would be set by resolution so that it could be changed easily in the future.
And I believe you're correct. I believe that a fine could be changed in the future. Right now, however, the way I'm looking at it is that when the fine's a part of the ordinance, then you have to go through the ordinance amendment procedure.
Right.
So I'll see if there's a carve out where you can set a schedule of fines and then change that over time. I'm not aware of one offhand, however.
Yeah, and that's why Waterloo did it. So they wouldn't have to, if times change and the fines increase, they wouldn't have to change the whole ordinance. They could just make a resolution to change the amount of the fine.
I will research that as well.
Thank you. All right, item 7I's, discussion in regard to Upser-Wapsipinicon River Watershed Management Authority funding. I received a letter from the Authority Funding Board that I believe I shared with the whole board. They were asking for $600 per year because they wanted to generate some funds to pay for a position, if I'm not mistaken, executive assistant. So I just wanted to hear the board's thoughts on this, whether anybody would be in favor of pursuing this or not.
I was just curious. I noticed they mentioned the amount was 18,000, and there were several that haven't participated. Why? I mean, it seems like a minimal amount to fund the position for an important use, but I was curious if you had any details on that, I guess. And if they become short of the 18,000, if that's not raised, do they just not go ahead with it, or do they revise the position, or?
I could certainly inquire about those items.
Okay.
Because I'm curious about that as well. Because quite frankly, there are some counties that have decided not to participate
Okay.
without a reason given.
Do they stay on as a member of the? If
I assume they
don't have
do.
any funding, but they get to stay on as part of the. Coalition.
They're all members, some do not participate. I guess that's the best way to put it.
I know this is not one of the watersheds I'm involved in, but I can speak to my experience that participation kind of can come and go. With us in the Middle Sea River, sometimes it depends on what projects we have going on, and that piques the interest of this community at that time, then it wanes later. But I do support this type of funding, and we'll be making a request ourselves for the Middle Cedar River, but we were planning on doing that during the budget process this year and have a more formal presentation that we'll be giving folks. But what this type of funding does, what I understand Bob Pinnick in here, is just provide that kind of base level part-time staff that keeps the nuts and bolts going for the authority, but also is the point person out there looking for those federal and state funding opportunities. And with this new infrastructure bill, and just the increased awareness and understanding that we need to invest in soil and water health, I think we're going to see a lot more of those funding opportunities. So it's beneficial to have this kind of person sustaining those efforts so that they're ready to take advantage of those opportunities when they come.
Budget process be a good place for this one too.
Gotcha. Okay, I will ask questions of them and bring it back during the budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7J, discussion in regard to county preparedness and possible updates for COVID-19. Dr. Mbonye.
Good morning, Board. Nafisa Bonye, Blackhawk County Public Health. We are back to high. As of November 5th, we've had 119 cases, so that brought our number back to high. So I had predicted a couple weeks ago that we'd be back and forth, right? So we're definitely now back in the high. As you are all mostly aware, COVID-19 vaccination has been approved for children 5 to 11. And we have started our initial vaccine rollout. Mercy One, Unity Point, and People's Community Clinic all have the vaccine, and I believe that pharmacies should be receiving it soon. They've also asked for people to call their providers' offices for the vaccinations, especially for the younger population. Unity Point has given out a number for their pediatric vaccines. It's 319-226-2600. And I can email that information to you all if you get calls from residents asking about that. The vaccine is similar to, it's a Pfizer, it's a 2-dose, and the first shot, the second shot is given 3 weeks after the first. So we will be sharing the data with the 5 to 11-year-olds soon. Right now we have 64% of our county residents 12 and over that have been vaccinated, and about 68% have all received at least 1 dose of a vaccine. So we're moving along.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 8. 8A is a discussion possible board action in regard to vision goals for the fiscal year 23 Blackhawk County budget. Mr. Perry?
I'm going to share my screen with everybody here. I did lay printouts on your desk in case you wanted a closer look on something. But I did just have a few items that I wanted to address, and if you have any questions, please stop me and we will discuss them. So I'll go through this quick, and then I'll leave it up to you guys for discussion here. The one thing that I wanted to address as well, these are the levies that we approved for FY22. Now, after we approved them, the state decided to shift over all of the mental health funding over to the state. And they were going to do that in a 2-year phase. And so the first phase, they actually lowered the levy from 69 cents down to 49 cents for FY22. that was done after we approved the 69 cents. So moving forward into FY23, that 49 cents is going to be completely gone. Now, we still are going to have this transitional period of finding out how we fund it. We still have a county employee that works for the mental health county services, so we do need to figure out that that one's going to be a little bit more difficult, only because we can't transfer funds from county to the state. So we'll have to work through that, but we will get there. And so right out the gate, our urban levy is automatically going to fall by 7.9%, just, you know, without touching the budget and mental health moving out. So that's something that we did discuss earlier in the year, but I did want to kind of put some numbers to paper on what that would look like. So revenue highlights, we got a little bit more information on the phase out for the commercial backfill. As you remember, last year we budgeted $500,000. We didn't know exactly if that was going to come back to us or not. We knew that the state was looking to cut that, especially in the pandemic. They wanted to look at some potential funding cuts, and so we did leave that at 50% of what we typically receive. And then finally we did receive some guidance that it would be a 6 to 7 year phase out, with FY23 starting at $855,000 for funding. So because we do budget for that already, we're able to increase that revenue and get a little bit more accurate with that budgeting. Local option sales tax. This was another one that we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with it. We were a little bit concerned because purchasing items in a pandemic, we weren't sure if that was going to go down. We had a lot of restaurants close, all sorts of stuff. But we did recently just receive our allocation, and that is going up about $400,000. So we still are seeing that trend increase. And as you recall, that does directly benefit the rural fund as well as debt service. So we should see, assuming again that's what we approve for expenses, we should see the revenue offset quite a bit of those. Casino gambling tax remained high, and that is something that we will not have to reduce as well. So all good things as far as revenue goes.
Yeah.
Expense highlights. Our health insurance trust fund is continuously doing well. From Tim Jamison, we do receive those periodically where our fund is. With that being said, we should not see a health insurance increase. That account still remains high, and we're in a good shape there.
Do you have a number for that, James, for what that?
No, Tim would have just sent that out. I want to say we're still right around the $6 million mark, and that's been trending upward every year. So I don't have the exact number, but it is going to be right around there.
Okay, we can do it later.
With the ARP Phase 1 and Phase 2 that we will be discussing, those are going to be able to take care of the large one-time capital costs. So again, that is going to help decrease our levy over time, and we will see a nice trend, especially regarding capital in the future years here. Debt service, FY23 is going to be dropping our obligation for principal and interest by $416,000. So that, coupled with the revenue for local option sales tax, we should see our debt service decrease quite a bit. Now, one thing in FY24, we're really going to see a decrease. This thing is gonna plummet in FY24. So this is going to be the last year where we see them fairly high. Our principal and interest is going to be right around the 3.5 million mark, and then it's gonna plummet from there. So I don't have that exact dollar amount for FY24, but we should see that decrease in the next year. So again, all good things moving forward.
I know that we can wait till the end of the report, but I was going to say, if you could identify those for us and send something out, I think
Yeah,
that'd
you
be
bet.
helpful too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. This is the tentative work schedule, or schedule I have for the work sessions. We have January 4th would be our first Tuesday meeting after the holiday. That would be that Tuesday. January 3rd would be the organizational meeting, but so January 4th, kick it off right away. And then as long as everybody is good to go for Tuesdays and Thursdays, we seem to be kind of holding that schedule for the past 3-4 years. So as long as everybody's good there, we will plan to get all of our discussions done by the 13th of January. Then on the 18th of January, we would approve the max levy. And again, the max levy would just be the levy that we would not go over. And then once that is approved, then we can approve the publishing for the actual hearing to be held on February 1st. So, or excuse me, sorry, we would hold the max levy hearing on February 1st. And then once that is approved, we can approve the final budget hearing for February 15th. So that gives us January 25th, and then February 1st to really kind of solidify that and move forward with any last minute changes. So this is the schedule that we maintained last year, and I feel confident that we can maintain it this year, unless you guys want to push anything back. This is kind of fluid. As I've said before, it's nice to front load it in case there is some issues, then we can address those issues and not run into the deadline of March 30th. So.
And when did you say you wanted to kind of you said some notice to the staff or to department heads and?
Yep. So right now, what I'm looking for is a little bit of direction. So I will get an email out to the staff today. I just wanted to get a good idea of what the Board of Supervisors wants to look at for FY23, your visions, your goals, your thought mentalities moving in. I will get it out today, and then I will, looking at a calendar, I would be able to get it back early December and work on it for about 3-4 weeks before we start work sessions come January.
Hey, James?
Yes.
I know that interest rates have remained relatively low still. Are there any revenue projections yet from the Treasurer's office? I know that was down a good chunk last year.
Not quite. We haven't had those conversations as you point out. Yeah, interest rates are remaining low. We did have to take that hit last fiscal year for budgeting for FY22, so it should be relatively the same. I will say this. We do have the ARP funds that are in our accounts now, so those are going to be gaining interest. And that is going to be interest that the county is going to be able to capitalize on and absorb that. So hopefully we should see an increase in interest, even if interest rates stay the same. Hopefully they do increase, but that should be something that we'll be able to see here coming up.
Valuations is also something I was wondering about too. I don't know if you're prepared to talk about that at all.
Nope, valuations will come out at the end of December, first part of the year.
What they're expecting.
Yep.
Tom?
You said no insurance increase. Oh, I guess I don't know, Tom.
He never lit up.
Oh, yeah.
There.
Tom, any comment on the vision for the next budget?
No, I think he's on track. I know Linda just mentioned the insurance. We usually get that later in after the first of the year. So I think, who knows where that's going to be. It could be a little higher than last year. It could be the same. So there's a lot of unknowns. I think he's just kind of giving us a guesstimate on where we're headed. I think the key is for him to deliver to the various departments the wishes of the Board of Supervisors on how they want to see the budgets. Obviously, we don't have time today to do that, so James, I'd like to have board members submit their ideas to you so you can compile something before you actually do that. I think think it's crucial to make sure we're all on the same page on what we want to look at in regards to their individual budgets, and go from there. We had kind of some rough areas last year, and we said we're going to try to clean them up this year. So I think initially spend a little bit more time on what we want, and it'll pay off in the long run when they present it to the board.
Mr. White?
I think you said it well.
Yes, board member. I mean, we are obviously well positioned. There are so many dynamics in play that we can lower taxes. And that's a remarkable position for a local government to be in and maintain the services. But as Mr. Little has suggested, everybody shoot their budget ideas to James. I think we're pretty much all on the same page. We generally don't want to see any staff increases. There are exceptions, of course, but we are well positioned, I think, for years to come. I know the one thing that has the citizens concerned is the economy, inflation, uncertainty. So the five of us will do our due diligence in doing what we can.
Well, I do think, I agree, I think we're probably all on pretty much the same page, but I said, as I was thinking this morning about this, I said we expect our department heads, I guess, to me, to be our eyes and ears for what's needed in the county and to bring those ideas and thoughts to us. And if we agree, great. If we don't, we have more discussion and go through that. But I certainly don't like to limit them on what they think our county residents need. So that's always something I want to hear, whether or not we make the decision to change it. As you said, I think we're strongly positioned right now, probably better than we've been in years. And so I know when I was looking at some of the information from last year's budget, when it mentioned in one of James's remarks was the county was able to approve a much lower capital projects budget by delaying capital projects in fiscal year 22. So I don't want to see us surprised, I guess, if there are some things in there this year that we did delay and not do them, because I think we do have the financial position.
I think we delayed them because of the COVID.
Well, I don't, that shouldn't have had anything to do with taxes, though, but I said the levy. But I just meant just for us to look at what is needed for the county as far as services and projects and things like that, not to limit what we look at just because we are in a good position to reduce them. But that doesn't mean I do like the fact, I think we've talked over the last couple of years too, we were trying to be consistent with our rate and not have dips and peaks and valleys and say, oh, now we've got to raise them, or sorry, we gave you remember that last year was a good low number, but now we have to raise it. So I just keeping that in mind, I think going forward, the taxpayers, we want to do, I think, a good service for them.
We don't want to make them dizzy.
Oh, good.
And I guess, what I would like to see from departments is to give us the budgets to provide the quality services that the community needs, so that their departments provide, and then that we are well positioned, but that it's our job as the supervisors to then go and make cuts and adjustments as we need. But I want to see budgets that reflect the services that they think they need to provide at the level that they need to do that.
All right, the board members will be in touch with Mr. Perry, I guess.
Before you send the letter out, was that kind of what we're supposed to do?
Yes,
So
yes.
Maybe send us the letter and we can.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Back to
I
you.
can, if the board's okay with it, I'll look for that. I'll shoot the board an email here, right after the meeting. We'll kind of collect ideas, and then I will, send out a preliminary email to the board, and then see what, everyone's take is, and then move from there.
Sounds good.
Does that work for you, Tom?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We're in a good position, like we're stating right now, but some of us on the board have been through days when they weren't so good, and it can turn real fast.
Yeah.
So I still think it's very important to be prudent with the way we spend money and maintain that level where we're currently at.
I agree, but I think our staff does as good a job as any to help us on that track too, so. Joint effort, thank you.
Yes, the staff pays attention to us.
Works with us.
All right. Item number 9. Any reports or information from the board?
I just have a comment, and I guess this is just an alert to the board, I guess, that I wanted to make the board aware of, and since it ties into a budget. It's something I will send all the information to the board for consideration. It's an item I'd like to put on next week's agenda. I think it was earlier this year that we had the state auditor, Rob Sand, send out, I guess it was something that had been in place. We said that it was legislation that had been in place that we were not to give to nonprofits the way we were doing, and so we were halting that procedure. And in my discussions with other counties, they have changed the process, but still allowed to work with nonprofits that are providing services to the community. So I wanted to be sure and get everyone that information so they could take a look at it, and we could maybe discuss it next week. Also to provide to Mr. Trinan too for his legal counsel on it. But it does sound like there are other counties that are working within contracts or like 28E agreements for those that they felt were really services that were needed in their community and provided assistance from the county's perspective. But I thought whether or not we want to go forward on funding nonprofits, that's something maybe we should decide. I was particularly concerned with those that we chose not to fund because we got that direction from Rob Sands, our state auditor, and so we stopped immediately. And I think that limited about $15,000 or $20,000 from some nonprofits for fiscal year 21, and then it completely removed the about $76,000 from this year that we were funding people. So it was just something for us to take a look at. I'd like to see if the board's thoughts and stuff on that going forward. So I'll be sure to get all the information out to you as soon as possible, and
All right.
we can discuss that. Thank you.
Craig, Mr. Tom, you two have any? Mr. White?
Don't forget, Thursday, we got a ceremony at the Memorial Hall at 10:30. And also, the Grout Museum will be open that whole day, free of charge for any veteran to go through Grout Museum. And I believe there's, I got an email from Yolando that there's going to be a food truck. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, but I don't know if it's free or if there's a charge to it. So just hopefully everybody does something that day to thank a vet for what they've done over the years. We've had too much going on in the last couple of years that I'm ashamed to say I'm an American at times, that we can't get along with one another. We can't, both sides of the aisle can't work together. We ought to be speaking to our legislators and telling them to sit down and work together. That's how they came to peace agreements years ago. And if two countries can come to peace agreements, they ought to be able to get along together at the State House and at the White House.
I was going to add to Craig's comments too, when you talked about services and things provided on, I thought Yolanda might be on today, but on his Facebook page or on the Veterans Facebook page, they list a long list of restaurants and stores.
Yeah.
Yes, but he's listed them and what they'll do, and so I thought if anybody needed to take a look at those, it would be,
Most guys got it.
that appreciation's great. Yes, some do, I know, but just to let everybody know.
All right, we will move on to item number 10, the canvas.
We're going to need some extra people.
Oh,
I texted Mr. Walter a couple minutes ago.
Okay.
We'll take a 5-minute recess. Mark?
Well, you take the best bid, the lowest responsible responsive bid, so it's gotta be responsive. And it's gotta make sense,
Well, I
so.
mean, because we got two copiers that are only like $28 apart, but the one that's $28 more has a way better service plan.
Oh, do me a favor, summarize the two bids, shoot me an email with them, and I'll cut it up. My guess is that if you've got a better. What about satellite? That's part of the bidding process.
It was an option.
Okay.
Because I really want a service contract, but the one is far better. But
And is this for buying or leasing?
Buying.
How long is the service contract?
We have an annual renewal, so we can opt out.
How would it, how much would it cost to get 1 year service? It'd be way over $28. You couldn't get one call for $28.
Right.
So.
I mean, like the one is $20 a month, the other company that's a cheaper copier is $44 a month.
Which will be good.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, it's quite a bit different.
That's
I
where
mean,
they
it's a
make
little-
it up. Yeah, I think you're gonna, based upon that, I think you can probably go with the higher bid. We're talking about $28. What we need to do is we need to make it very clear how we're calculating. Are we doing that tomorrow's meeting? Okay, so we need to make it real clear when we do our resolution. It's already in there. It's already on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
We need to make it very clear how we articulate it to the board tomorrow so that they understand that we are recommending we go with a higher bid because the lower, it's got a lower overall cost. That's what we want to make it as. If they were the exact same, you know, if there were, I get that there might not be any service needed. But I can also speak from experience that if you use a big copier with any regularity, you're gonna need service within 6 months.
Yeah, our problem is, you know, this last one we bought, you know, we didn't get a service contract. We've had it 6 years. We could have easily bought a new copier with how much money we have sunk into it. And with toner, these new service contracts, both of them actually, they include all the toner.
Well, and while I realize that was an optional response, that makes it a more responsive bid. The reason I keep bringing up this reasonable responsive bid, is this. If you look at chapter 26, I realize this is not a chapter 26, like this is a county bidding policy thing. The county bidding policy uses the chapter 26 procedure. And the reason that they use the words reasonable and responsive, so that the bid has to be responsive to the request. Now you can say, well, it was optional, either one's responsive. But
That's what I'm usually here to do.
You can also
Every day.
We're going to be paying an overall higher amount, and I think that we could justify.
I say I'm against that ordinance, and you get all
that we are coming out
my
ahead
feelings
with this
when he stops
financial. So I do,
arresting speeders and stuff.
and I'll take a look at it.
Listening to what Shake like.
Yeah.
I'm
I live
pretty
out in
sure
Evansdale, and I hear it every
If
day.
it's what you're saying it is right now, that's what.
You know, pounding down so they can slow it
I
down.
will, I'll put something together and get it to you this early this afternoon.
I don't know, I know Mike was on it, I don't know if you.
Jesus Christ, 5 minutes and up 10.
Evaluation of solar, you know, the alternative energy committee.
Yeah, I wasn't on, him and Cherie were on it.
Yeah, well, I thought he was on with one of you, along with him. Well, here was the thing. We had, like, you know, the seeming cost was lower on a bid. But the problem is they didn't respond to our complaints. So we ended up hiring an expert to evaluate the two bids because.
I remember Cherie talking about this.
And what we ended up doing was going with one that was a little higher because we didn't think the other one was responsive to our request. We said, you gotta support this, we need. Because the one didn't, so well, that's all. We did say there's a lot there. Clearly that was, because we got these ones.
Yeah.
We wanted to have that higher figure, or we weren't going to be.
You guys got a good long break for a year.
Right.
We did.
I'll tell you, I can speak from my payoff. We've definitely paid off from it.
Oh, really? Good.
Oh, yeah. Our
So
solar's gotta be a better way.
Yeah, I know.
Give us what we need here.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's made a big
Could we,
it'll start dropping.
you want us
if
to
it has
intersperse with
quality
the supervisors?
So then you'll get,
Intersperse.
you know, kind of flip the word, but then it'll come back. Was the idea, and over the course.
Yeah, usually, yeah, Grant and Craig will be right there.
Switch it up.
Yeah, so that each team has a supervisor.
Oh, we said 5 minutes.
So, yeah. All
We
right.
gotta switch it up here.
All right. Take care, Nikki. You bet. Thanks.
Something that happened,
No.
something that didn't happen. Oh, okay.
It's possible.
I thought you meant, it was like, no, we talked about the Jake brain.
No, I'm not. I was coming up
What?
officially.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind
All right.
partnering up with
Actually,
But you stay over there.
Stay over here.
because Craig will go over there.
Got it.
That's all I need.
All right.
I can bug that other guy.
You're gonna do too.
Do I need some?
Oh, yeah, if you can, I said I would.
I don't know, let me see.
You have your phone on you?
Are you trying to take my canvas?
We need
Mike?
Craig.
No, I'm
have
not,
my
I'm just
phone on
sneaking
me.
in real quick.
You're good, I'm waiting for Craig, actually.
Dan's a hard one
Well,
to
now you
get.
have to tell me.
Sorry.
Seems like he's in here and he'll do the meeting and then.
Well, so, yeah.
Just
Depends what I have going on.
Are you gonna grab?
There he is.
All right, back to you.
Craig, Craig, could you sit over with Mike? We got 3 teams.
You got stuck with me.
So just as a reminder, we are taking it's been a little bit since we've done a big one.
It is.
Yes.
So I'll go do a little refresher here. So in the black book is the results that were uploaded on election night. So they'll be in precinct order. So just go through the book and start with the first page. So you can see at the top Waterloo 1-1 and then pull out the partner tally book. And then you're gonna match up what was uploaded on election night to what was printed off at the precinct on the machine tape, which I've clipped to the outside of the envelope. So you're just taking the tape and matching it up with the book and just going through the candidate count. There's your refresher.
Do you want to talk about first tier and second tier canvases?
Sure. So today is the first tier canvas, which means that we are canvassing all the Blackhawk County results. And then next week, it'll be on the agenda for a second canvas. And that is for districts that overlap with other counties. So we're just doing Blackhawk County results today. And then next week, we'll be doing Dunkerton School, Union School, and Hawkeye, because those have multiple counties. So each county this week does their own. And then the controlling county takes all the counties, and then we'll do that next week, which will be a shorter one.
How come we didn't do it like we've always done?
What do you mean?
That we did it all at once.
We keep, once they combine city and school, we did it like this in 2019 too.
It's one of those fun new laws.
All right, James, I will take this. If you want to go after it.
You're an expert at both. So
All right.
All right, Ward 4, Precinct 3.
All right.
One more.
All right. Yeah. No. I don't really
Carry
care.
5.
Are they all in order then?
Yes, they will all be in order. These are all sorted by your
Maze
sheets.
5.
And then so you're just gonna start with Rob Gray once Craig gets that tape.
Is that what you're going off of?
This one?
Yeah, but I've got 100 for Hart.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
100 for Hart.
The first minute, you
23
should just
for
be able to
Clyde.
go down.
And then 1 for undervotes, 129.
Gotcha. Okay, you don't need to give me the totals.
Yep.
Dennis Halverson, 35. Rob Nichols, 88.
Hold on just a sec. You said 001.
You don't need to give me the unders either.
I got
No, I gotta give me the last name and the
78
number.
0. Where's the 00? Where's the next 01?
Ewing, 63.
That's what I'm.
Claire,
So
35.
that would be your no write-ins.
35?
Yep, he said that, but then he said there was another 01.
Keeping us on our toes.
Okay, good.
Candidates, so you can just skip to the candidate.
Williams, 100. On write-in, Sapple, 100.
Yep.
I'll bet on this.
Here's the next one. Ward 4, Precinct 4.
161, 261, 76, 341,
185.
11,
Yeah, just call them the numbers.
9.
Oh, good. There's me too. I just thought, first time ever. Okay. Here.
0, 130,
96,
93.
188, 126,
Yes.
96,
110,
Yes.
104, 20,
105,
14,
4,
Yes.
169.
Yes.
2,
Yep. All right.
I'll put them in for you.
And I'll
Give me something to do.
make sure they match the precinct board that I'm going to.
32,
Oh, yeah.
0, 4,
1, 268, 38,
Make myself useful.
4, 0,
230,
Mm-hmm.
157, 32,
0, 2,
235,
146, 108, 349,
349?
348, 9.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Ward 4,
Okay, so
precinct
far
6.
so good.
All right. We're good.
Yes, yes, you are.
We're good, is that what you said? Okay.
We're cruising.
You can't go anywhere till we're done.
I got a whole bit test at 1. We're gonna be out of here at 1?
0,
We better be.
91,
Yes.
87,
It's
66,
gonna be hard.
85, 46.
And I'll put those back in the packet for you
Yep.
if you want.
196, 209,
Ward 5, precinct 2.
129, 242,
Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, wait, yep, that's down here. Got it. 229. Go ahead.
242, 179, 327, 271,
159, 150,
106, 455,
130, 161, 143,
328, 274, 227, 205,
245.
Yes.
119, 11?
Ward 5,
I had
precinct
13.
3, and Ward 5, precinct 4.
Yep.
Combined.
Is that a big deal with the write-ins? or-
210,
Oh, yeah, they add them.
Okay.
You got the 3 items, we're good.
All right, good.
Yes, we still want to manage.
7, 361, 305,
Yeah, because it was a vote for 3.
345, 343, 308, 309, 209,
Yes. Ward 5, precinct 5.
326,
I can put those in there for you.
353, 8, 14, 9, 14, 3,
397, 239, 218, 389, 288, 341, 278, 213.
Yep.
311, 3,
Okay, Barclay, Lester, Dunkerton, and Ben County, or townships.
243, 221, 782, 224, 198, 244, 282,
72,
Mm-hmm.
8,
74, 71, 68,
Mm-hmm.
And 11 for that one. All right. Now that 8 one, there were other, it's totaling 12. Okay.
105, 110, 9, 6, 252,
Mm-hmm.
115,
Mm-hmm.
100, 15, 4,
This isn't so bad.
3,
Yes.
26, 12,
All right, Big Creek, Spring Creek, LaPorte City.
14, 4, 4, 166, 2,
Good.
166, 156, 154, 1, 205, 6.
65.
Yes.
For a write-in. Wow.
Is that you?
Hey, keep to yourself.
Yes,
Yes,
there
was
was
that
no
for you?
candidate that was on the same.
200,
Mm-hmm.
134, 210,
0,
201, 213,
1,
280, 170, 156,
0,
166,
197,
I know, like someday you might have to enlarge the print or something.
To me, it's the thermal.
Oh, those are worse than this, right, yeah. This is so bright.
Blackhawk, Hudson, and Lake.
The only other thing I had is, on that council member at large, I had 3 write-ins after TJ Fry.
Yeah. Weird.
You rallied.
Got those 3. All right, good.
351. 231. 239. 227. 331. 6. 5. 2.
Director.
4. 4.
Stopped at 5.
233. 269. 286. 244. 99. 256.
Yep. Okay. Cedar, Orange, and Eagle.
$239 or $238? Okay. 5-2. I only have 5. Okay.
1, 2.
Yep. Elk Run Heights.
At least they got a good record, though.
$169, $138, $29, 97, 57, 145, 148.
Yes. Evansdale, Ward 1.
320, 190, 196, 164, 298, 83, 25, 362, 5.
39, 20, 71, 90, 27. We have 27 cents.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Just write-ins, 132.
79, 108,
Mm-hmm.
43, 112, 96, 56.
Yes,
I
okay.
didn't know you were in Cedar Falls.
Evansdale, Ward 2 and 4.
Okay.
$324, 60, 240, 147, 259, 506,
268,
174, 68,
Mm.
203, 84.
The 32, was there another a number after?
Yep.
5. 6 more after it got.
Oh, okay, yeah, just those two over there. Gotcha. Good. Evansdale, Ward 3.
That's never good.
72,
Well, my folks always work polls.
34 and 4,
Mm-hmm.
Looks like you guys will be
88,
fine.
36, 106, 37,
We practiced.
24, 87.
Yep.
As long as that's
It's usually a
on
return.
a line.
You don't care.
Pointer, Precinct 1, East Waterloo and Raymond.
All right, 55, 50, 53, 24, 25, 24, 0, 41, 23,
Good?
35,
an undervote would be if they didn't, an overvote would be that they.
Pointer to Gilbertville, Fox, Jessup.
So if it was a vote for one, it would have been 2 overvotes.
And then I don't think they count either one, do they?
No.
Yep.
We test it though, just obviously.
Yep.
Want an public testing to make sure that it's.
103.
But as far as vote totals, no.
130.
I suppose if it was a really high number, it could be as confusing
27.
Yeah, sure.
27,
Oh, gosh.
26, 14, 35,
Oh, just a few.
Wait.
58,
Yeah.
6, 2,
We'll be screwed before we're done, for sure, even if I start off.
71, 45,
69?
117, 2, 6, 50, 15, 21.
Great, that's it.
Good.
I will, I'm trying to get ahead a little bit.
Yeah, no problem.
Don't ask, they'll be coming for a while.
Now, question is whether you characterize the beneficial service or not.
Oh.
That's reasonable law. Good.
Doesn't care as long as she says ink, she said, so they're gonna get worse.
Really?
Yeah. Thank
Well,
goodness.
Dan usually only has like 2 initials on there. I see the D and the T.
Yep,
Yep.
that works.
And a scribble.
Yeah, well,
I'm working at that pharmaceutical company. I had to sign about 20 times on each page. God, that was 40 years ago, almost.
It was a lonely day.
oh yeah, you on the last page, we have to do something about that, that's not right. All by yourself. Yeah.
Got your Carhartt down in my car.
Oh, okay.
And your water bottle. And a regular $5 permit.
Well, somebody else will come after you, you better be careful.
That's the one again. All right, good.
Oh, that's a fine, we should think about increasing.
What's that?
Parking violations.
In our lot, you mean?
What's that?
In our lot?
Yeah. Yeah, it's $5, which is
Quite
a
honestly,
joke,
if
actually.
we'd extend the 30 minutes to 60 minutes, we probably wouldn't have many. That's what we
So
should do.
unfair. Those are the easiest ones to catch.
Oh, for the love of
Yeah.
God, please don't
30
do that.
I consider it a $5 permit.
Because, you know, who wants to stay at the courthouse anyway? So people would get out of here when they got the business done.
225, 213,
Grant's probably going along pretty neatly, I was gonna say.
Yeah. That's kind of funny. It's like it's in informal science, different kind though.
An assembly line, right?
Yeah.
Who would think this is part of the job? I'm trying to get a little bit ahead of you. I'm gonna have to shorten this. I'm being very sloppy. I just need to find it shorter, I guess.
371, 390, 351, 257.
You said it. You don't have to be able to read it.
Yeah, no,
That's good.
I'm not concerned about reading it at all. I just want to see some signatures on some lines.
Yeah, that's what I want.
What I should say.
Nobody else has been. Excuse me.
Is it just one? I've got more than that left in here. Oh, they're probably from it. This is gonna be for Cedar Falls though.
So you guys have the absentee receipt, which just prints out different on election night. It's no big deal. But that's, you're gonna read this compared to.
I think the next one, that's next week. Chris and Tom will do them all
Yep.
by themselves.
Well, at least Chris had the courtesy to still stay on.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah, so he can be.
Assuming he's
Yeah.
still there. It'll be telling if he votes against, or votes for me.
Some of the staff that are still on, I assume it's the same reason, they just haven't bothered to get back to their phones, to their Zoom. Doubt they're waiting for the canvas results. Said the staff that are still on, there are a couple.
I wonder that.
I can't
Are they
imagine.
really paying attention?
No, I think,
Like,
no.
I'm thinking TJ.
They've just left
You're
it
not
out.
really paying attention.
They're on their phones posting on Facebook.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have a
is that
question for
Dunkerton?
you.
Yep, I've got zeros for everything on Dunkerton.
I'll ask him later how interesting it was.
What did we do? Did you catch the ending where we did something really?
I'll ask him how many provisionals we had.
Yeah.
It was actually a good
They
meeting.
wouldn't know that in, yeah.
It was a meeting of substance.
Oops.
Evansdale.
Is a meeting of
It
substance.
lasted longer than I thought.
The
Since we're
discussion
still
things
going.
we did have, I think, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, not, usually we don't have that many items on a discussion.
1423,
Is he talking?
6250.
Parks and Recreation Board for Evansdale. Do you have that? It's a, they had 3 write-ins is what I've got. Yep.
No, what's it like? One slip away.
All right. Yep. Yep.
Daniel, 7, 10, 16.
I feel like Henry Blake from MASH. I'm just signing stuff.
Well, about the same thing.
I mean, I'd like to tell you you're halfway, but you're not even halfway.
You're not even, yeah. No, that's what I meant. Don't get tired, you'll get sloppier.
Chris
as we
even
go,
went to
I think.
college with
It's gonna be a bad one. Longest ever, so I think. No, as far as signatures. No?
It's just you guys forget, which is good, great.
Maybe that's good, yeah.
I get carpal tunnel. Is that what he's got?
I don't know, it's in the insurance plan. Oh, Lord, just looking at the pile.
It's Aaron's fault.
That, not that.
It's not actually my fault. This
No.
is what's required by law.
Yeah.
Hold on, just a sec. You said 110.
Just
Did you
shoot the
mean 10?
messenger.
Yep. The other 2 are fine.
If you were a dictator, you would.
If you ask the general public, yes, I know.
They
lots
think you
of
should,
control.
yeah, sure.
I bet you Kim Jong-un doesn't have to sign this communique for that.
Oh, my goodness.
No, they're standing, I'm sure. When is
I'm glad that that's on record.
Grant, did you get that in the minutes?
Yeah.
Bunch of zeros.
Yeah, 10.
Yep, we got that. Yep.
9.
Yep. You had a write-in in there too. Yep.
Was it a good weekend, James?
Yep.
That's a good group of people.
What was it for provisionals?
We had 12 not counted, 1 counted.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
There were 12 provisional ballots.
Yep.
Not 16.
Gotcha.
1 was counted.
There one that was 76. There's no law that said we have to report one was 60, law 77.
Okay.
And they, were all because they did not have ID.
Oh, really? Okay, okay.
And they're able to bring that to us until yesterday at noon.
Oh,
Which we did have one. but
You had one.
that's why we were able to do it.
really?
Actually, 12 doesn't sound bad.
Or,
No, we had about 30,000.
Yep. That's all she wrote.
Oh, yeah, because that could make a difference in a couple of these elections.
On these local elections for sure. I mean, that Hudson City Council race, I think that was only a difference of 5 votes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Last year, remember we had the elk run that was tied and you guys had to draw.
Yeah, I remember, yeah. She won the
Or
election.
coin flip or something.
Yeah, they literally drew out of a hat.
she never.
Because they did a recount, but it stayed exactly tied.
It reminds me where there were a bunch of coin flips during a caucus or something.
It's like, what? Yeah.
I mean, the good thing is after the recount, it stayed tied, meaning, because then they can't. They're down to 1
Hey,
6
sign it so you can read it.
No,
Me?
yeah.
It goes to the board of.
Yeah.
You ain't no doctor.
Well, they gotta have a final resolution if there's really a tie.
Right, right.
Spend the pool.
And from your end, it's gotta be better than a revote. Yeah.
Yeah, when they're at,
car sick.
chapter 45 for everyone.
That's what he said when he got back in. He goes, driving is making.
Oh, my.
Oh,
James.
oh, missed one.
Okay.
Provisional ballots not counted. Not counted. Because they did not have sufficient ID. And then I was telling them they can bring ID, the proof of ID to us by noon yesterday. And we had one person do that, so. Yeah, we had 13 total provisionals on election night. And I'm sure you all know, but Cedar Falls is going to run off elections.
Yes.
Another election November 30th.
Yep.
And that will be an expedited canvas, so that's like a special canvas that we'll have to have December 2nd at 1 o'clock. Which I'll send out an email on just so I can get it on everybody's calendar.
What day? December 2nd, you said?
Yeah, the election is Tuesday and then they'll have a canvas Thursday afternoon. Because they have a, just like talking about the provisionals, they can hear those till noon on Thursday, so that's why we have to have it in the afternoon.
The turnout for elections such as that are typically low, I assume?
They're lower than what we just had. Typically, like the city school election is typically like a 30% turnout, and then it usually drops down to 15 or 20 for runoff.
Well, it was quite contested in Cedar Falls though, so I wouldn't be surprised if you don't have quite a turnout, except for, unless weather really.
It's interesting, the turnout was pretty much spot on, like it was in 2019. So I'm guessing, you know, the runoff will be pretty close to that.
People would be just as interested the second time they were for time,
Right?
maybe more so, but.
You would think.
No, I know.
I know, it's interesting, like, I live in Cedar Falls, so without a doubt, I would be voting within. It makes it pretty easy.
You
too,
knew it
when
was
I can
gonna be
just,
with
you know,
3 people.
vote
Right
on
there.
this.
Mhm.
Yep, That's good.
The new property go outside and around the front of the counter.
Is that required?
No, just
Seems right.
observed and
Yes.
been a good
Yeah.
habit. Yeah.
May not make it out for one.
I should have maybe brought extra pens.
Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking, oh, that's, we still got enough.
If anybody runs out of ink, you're not leaving your spot. I'm gonna grab you a pen.
You'll have to look for us later.
No,
Once we step
please
away.
don't make me do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I think you have come back sometimes where we missed a sheet or something.
No, it's absolutely.
Yeah.
And had to track somebody
This
down.
is actually gonna be good though. How
Yeah,
we're
that
doing
was
this. In order. Sometimes I start a pile at one end and another pile at the other end, and
That's
that's
true.
when I get.
Everybody wants to, yeah. Start signing.
But this is good. We're staying in pretty good order.
Be in order.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed
We're good.
to be bad.
You guys are doing great today.
Good students.
Like, we really lucked out.
Had to grab one more pot, all right?
Cabin used to it, so-
These are very light.
And it was perfect.
So yeah, you guys just did the abstract. We have to keep one for us, and then we have to send to the other jurisdiction, which is why there's two sets. And then these are the winner certificates.
It's only 301 miles.
Where you're headed? Is that why you have to be done a certain time?
No, I'm actually, my daughter had a baby yesterday, but it was 2 months early.
Oh.
There's been some horrendous
COVID.
Easter.
Oh.
And here's the other
Oh,
one.
and then they couldn't stop the bleeding.
Oh, so she had.
My birthday being on
Critical
the
for a bit.
1 year I had.
Hopefully they pulled the
Was just
tube out of her before she was intubated.
Oh.
So hopefully they pulled the tube. The baby's doing good. It's vaccinated.
Oh, oh.
So if I test negative, I'm the only one that can hold the baby.
Oh. I was gonna say, you can go help then. You can be the person that goes and helps, huh?
I assume that's like.
Oh, he did? Oh, well,
Yeah.
now that he works here.
I didn't know
he can bring
Amy
it
was
all the
supposed to
time.
bring the cooler.
That makes us scared she was gonna bleed to death and not have had a chance to hold her baby.
Yeah, I'll try to.
That's what I was thinking.
And I even have to think of it.
We have to do two sets. One stays with us, and the other goes to the jurisdiction.
That's a crying shame, wasting paper like that.
I'm not the one that makes these laws. You guys are always yelling at me about paperwork.
My brother who works at a paper mill appreciates this.
I do not make the law.
Trees, yeah.
Gotta be a trail.
That's exactly why it is like that.
You know, trees are cash crop for me, and I appreciate this.
With that original signature.
Hopefully they use the trees that are.
You're right, hopefully.
Guess I haven't done enough of this to get sick of it yet. I always think it's kinda nice that it's done.
Super cake.
What if I get a paper cut and I get sepsis or something?
And COVID, who knows, yeah. Gotta be careful.
Signing my life away. I'm assuming these say the same thing as everything else.
Working up a sweat.
I know, we're trying to get done. Getting bad.
This is cardiovascular. What would all these cities do without a county government, huh? They'd be in disarray if we weren't available to do this.
There'd be some that probably would like
And over by one.
Militias and would be running the
Probably have
cities.
to
There are some states where cities do run
individually
elections
reformat them.
with the county.
What they this.
Oh, really?
Really? Back when you were a young auditor.
Not too far wrong, baby.
That's fun.
You of all people should know that Abe Lincoln once said, "Don't trust what you read on the internet."
No, kidding.
Always knew that man was clairvoyant. Yeah. That's kind of funny. See, I don't think I heard of that. I pay a lot of attention.
There are 4 sheets left.
You say that. No relation.
To Grant, I'm only saying that to Grant.
Oh, yay, we're
Funny
done.
thing is,
Say, mine doesn't show a lot of ink, but I think it'll
yeah,
go.
Lisa Perry, just not out of Gilbertville.
Oh, yeah. Any relation?
There's a Lisa Perry that lives in Dewar that I'm related to, but.
Stuff about the governor's races out east. No, there was some interesting.
It was, but our memory maybe not serve us right, but it still seems like an awful lot.
I don't do this.
Did anybody,
It is more for city school elections.
The sister there, and I
you guys didn't make any
asked her
changes?
about
We
it.
didn't make any changes. You guys didn't make any changes, right?
No.
We didn't. Just for the benefits of.
Okay, would you like us to make one?
Vote to-
I know, we'd have to do this again.
The addition of, I don't know, how many votes were cast after election day?
Just one, just that one provisional. Yeah, because we can't accept any late
And
absentees
then
anymore.
we wouldn't have had the write-in when it was on Tuesday night. Are those, still there?
They have a certificate, yes. Yep.
Apparently there was a.
So if you need any of those,
Some state.
The write-in one?
Karen's got them.
Yeah, I can give those again.
You got my email already.
Yeah, either one. Yeah, I can do that. So we'll have from our county, we'll have the Gilbertville City ones, the Evansdale Clerk and Rec. I
Is
don't
Jake
have
break
the
on
unions
next
for-
week? Start our process unless there's some,
Call a city.
I mean, it only starts at, I know.
Depending on how you define it. Des Moines, maybe.
A write-in winner for Union School District and vote.
That's what I thought, if there had been this wild cost. I don't know, but
The Evansdale Clerk and Rec Board.
You're gonna see Mark Herbst.
I believe under the code,
Have
they
those
are all
cities
cities once they're
members at
incorporated.
Gilbertville City Council and a
You can
Gilbertville City
incorporate
Council.
the two residents, I think.
Make it official.
Which I'm happy to just.
I don't know. I got some slow students.
Did the
All right.
provisional ballot.
We'll wait for them. We don't need to wait for them?
No, it was a
Oh, yeah, we're not gonna wait for them.
Did you get to be mayor earlier?
Yeah, you are, we waited for you.
You don't, you never have to wait for us.
Sorry.
You really good shit.
Thank you.
We gotta get started on time.
That's
Plus
close.
we got extras compared to what you guys have.
There's a reason why he was.
You guys
called
have the
White
good
Bean in
bunch.
College.
You, is that you? That's me. Did you have to sign it here too?
No.
He did up here.
He did already.
I just wasn't sure because this one.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. I just want to be sure we didn't miss.
You can sign it twice, you just have to sign it.
Item number 10. I will make a motion to certify the outcome of the votes cast in the city school election held Tuesday, November 2nd, 2021, in accordance with Iowa Code 5024.
Second.
And we have a second. Mr. Veeder, roll call vote, please.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
White. Yes. Little. Trelka.
Yes. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no.
Aye.